Hi there, friends. This is Brent here as Productivity Coach. The sole aim of this whole channel is to get you into a place of sustainable high-level productivity. So I was really inspired by this video that I made last week where I really changed the pace and went from offering stuff that is just at my own bleeding edge, the most forward-thinking productivity theory stuff that I have, and changing gears back to like, hey, what's the low-hanging fruit? What's the stuff that everybody needs to hear in terms of at least taking a good solid step into greater self-control, self-mastery, and getting your shit together, getting productive, getting your work done? What does it take to just get like as many people as possible in that direction? And as soon as I started asking this question, I realized there's a lot of like really basic stuff that's basic to me and basic to people that I work with that is just not known. It just goes by and large unknown. And this is the stuff that really urgently needs to get out. It's the stuff that people need to urgently hear. So I think I want to keep making videos of this content, the stuff that will just get you really quick results right away. And this is stuff, consequently, that I've been talking about for a long time. So it's really, I've got it in my bones at this point. So you're in for a treat, especially if the topic matter of this video applies to you, which is not everybody. It's a certain subsection of people that I work with, but this might be you, especially if you found yourself drawn to this title, the title being what to do if you only start too many things. So if you're just starting things all the time and you never follow through. So you have like a whole bunch of stuff you've begun and you don't complete any of it, or you complete only a very small amount of it. So if that's you, then you're likely like me or like how I used to be, but of the same kind of personality architecture, we could say, where you are a visionary, you are a creative, you have a lot of ideas. You are struck constantly with intuitive visions and knowings of things that you could do. You take to new skills and disciplines very easily. You can take a few lessons on the violin or the piano and you learn them really quickly. And maybe people around you are like, wow, you're really good at that. And then you're struck immediately with this intuitive vision that you could actually become really amazing at the piano or the guitar or at some sort of business venture or some sport or some kind of hobby. And then it's almost like you're a kid in a candy store and there's just like all these things you can try and you're trying to conceive of a life, a daily lived experience where you can be doing all these things. So I'll speak with a lot of people like yourself where it's like, yeah, I want to wake up in the morning and practice guitar and then write poetry and then do some crypto trading. And then I want to do some marketing and take like freelance marketing clients and you're fitting everything into a single lifetime. So the good news is that this is totally and abundantly possible. The lesson that you need to learn in order to bring this online and actually make it happen is that you need to cultivate this quality of follow through. And if follow-through has been a sticking point for you, then I'll tell you how to unlock it in yourself so that you can finally start following through on shit, getting it done, and getting on with your life, getting on to bigger and better things. So that is what is in store. So the first thing that we need to lay out, the first thing that we need to establish is the spectrum between visionary, vision and groundedness. And it's basically this. It's like you have people that operate, say, primarily from their right hemisphere, and these are people who are guided primarily by their intuition, by their imagination, by their emotions to a large extent. These are people that think in artistic ways. They're able to cross-pollinate subject matter, draw metaphors and analogies. This is kind of a right brain stuff. And then you have people who operate from a left hemisphere. And these are more people who work in terms of linear functions. So everything is in a sequence. Give me step one and then give me step two. These are people who want the recipe. They want the step-by-steps. They want the how-to. They want to watch movies and read books and hear stories that make sense, and they're put kind of in a linear format. They don't want to deal with scenes that involve dreams or a chronological whatever. These are people that are like, they prefer cold hard reality. Now, I'm personally more of the right brain persuasion, and perhaps you are as well. But there are advantages to be had on both sides, because if you're of a right brain persuasion, and if you're of a visionary persuasion, so you get a lot of visions, what you'll find is that there's a part of you that's just so hooked into the sky, so to speak. You're so hooked into the universe, into like these higher channels, that it takes a lot of discipline to ground yourself into the world, which is to say, to bring your feet on the ground, which is to say, to actually do work, to actually slog through, to live life that is regular and repetitive and has repetition, to actually allow things to take time as you get them done. You will find a lot of resistance. You'll find it's very difficult because on a deep level, you're convinced that everything you're doing should just go fast. It should go quickly. You'll say to yourself, I learned all this in just a few days. Why can't I just keep going at this rate? Now, if you're of a left-brained persuasion, I'm doing left from my perspective. I realize it's right, but so you have to switch it on your own. But if you're doing it from a left brain persuasion, then you may not necessarily get a whole lot of creative insight all the time. You'll not receive a lot of visions. You won't get a lot of intuitive hunches, perhaps. But when you have a path and a way, you'll find it easy to commit because you're grounded in it and you're able to just commit and see it all the way through, which is why a lot of people who are artists, painters, script writers, musicians, there's this cliche of them not being very accomplished, not making a whole lot of money, not being very business savvy, because they don't have the discipline to kind of like follow through and kind of learn these sort of like, learn the discipline element of their craft and their business. And then people of the left brain persuasion may be a little bit more boring compared to like the lifestyle of an artist, but successful. These are people who are able to create success for themselves, and they do it by being steadfast with one way. So to put it all together, people who are of a left brain persuasion are really good at choosing a single path and following through, and people of a right brain persuasion are really good at getting visions for things that they could follow through, but they don't follow through. And so what you and I are doing in this video right now, bringing in that balance, we're bringing it dead center, where we are developing the left brain element so that you can have the discipline required to actually see your visions through. There's a really interesting meeting that happens when you allow your imagination to make contact with the physical world. There's so many people of the right brain persuasion that just stay up in the clouds and they talk about how good they could be and what they should be doing, and they never actually make the shit happen in the real world, in the physical world where everybody can see, whereas everybody in the left brain persuasion, they're just doing that all day long. So we're gonna teach you principles and insights and leverage points so that you can follow through a little bit more. So the main lesson is as so. When you have a lot of visions, it doesn't change the fact that in order to manifest your visions in real life, you will have to do it in a linear way. All of your visions will need to be put in a queue, and they'll need to be lined up, in other words, and the first thing will need to be done first, and the second thing needs to be done second, and the third thing third. In other words, you'll have to cultivate the discipline of taking right brain stuff and grounding it into the world, and that means things taking time. It means things not happening instantaneously. It means there's drag. It means there's an application of effort. And it means cultivating a willingness to be bored, among a few other things. So to wrangle this all in, you're going to need to start closing your open loops. Open loops are things that reside in your unconscious mind that need to be done. So in other words, anything that in your mind needs to be done. Like, think about something that you have to do. What's something you have to do? Something that you're hoping to get around to doing, something that needs completing, something that you've started but never finished, a responsibility that you have. These are all examples of open loops. Typically, people who have not considered their open loops have upwards of 40 or 50 open loops just kicking around, taking up processing power in their unconscious mind. You can see this for yourself if you were to do the following exercise. You open up a document on your computer, so a word processing document like Microsoft Word or whatever, or journal this out on paper. And you create a list, and the title of this list is shit that needs to get done, or things to do, as you wish. And then write out the first thing that needs to get done, whatever it is. I need to feed my cat. I need to weed the garden, whatever it is. And then notice what immediately comes to mind as you list out these loops. And then notice that as you kind of get the topical surface level stuff listed out, notice the medium level unclosed loops showing up. So stuff that you need to get done this week, stuff that you've been meaning to get done for the last couple of days or weeks or months even. Stuff around the house, things you need to fix, somebody you need to get in touch with, something that just needs to be fixed, whatever it is. List it all out, keep listing. And then notice that even as you go through that, some of the even deeper stuff starts to come up. Stuff you've been meaning to do for years. That book you've been meaning to write. The script you've been meaning to write. An art piece that you've been wanting to get around to. You'll notice stuff that you've been wanting to get around to for a long time. So list all that out. And then keep going. If you need to take a break, but come back to the list and really challenge yourself. Like really go for it, because this is really important, until there's nothing else, where you're looking at a list that if it were all done, you would just be done, like fucking done. I've done everything. I'm totally caught up on life itself. That's how complete we want this list to be. If it's your desire to change this quality about yourself where it's like you're always starting things and you never follow through, do this exercise. I cannot overstate the importance of this. This is a very high priority exercise. When I first did it, it changed everything for me, and I continuously do it. But because I'm so good at closing loops, and because I'm so much more discerning about loops that I now open when I take on medium or long-term projects, that I'm actually way more in charge of the open loops that I have in my life. And because I have fewer open loops in my life kicking around, oh, right, I have to get to that, I have to get to that, I'm free as a result to just focus on the most important stuff. It's like I can take all of this otherwise frettered away, wasted conscious creative attention, and I can just focus it like a laser on what I'm doing, growing my business, making this video for you. It's very basic. And I can take on more stuff as well, but whenever I take on a new open loop, I do it with discernment. I'm very careful about what I choose to do. So you make this list of open loops, that's good. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna want to sort these loops into 4 quadrants. And so now we're gonna borrow from the genius work of Stephen Covey from his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which continues to surface as one of the most foundational and important self-help books, self-growth books, since it was published. I don't know when, before the year 2000. So let's just say the 90s. So for the last 30 years, it's just been continued to be referenced as an important book that you truly should read. In this book, there's a chapter on prioritization, and in this chapter, he talks about the 4 quadrants where he sorts tasks according to whether they are important or not important, and urgent or not urgent. So stuff that is both important and urgent is the stuff that we have to get to like right now. Like right now we have these fires to put out. It's so important. We have to do it right now. We have a deadline with a client and we're already behind, and we have to burn that midnight oil in order to do it. And then we have stuff in quadrant 2, and I'm going to reference this particular quadrant later. Quadrant 2 is stuff that is important but not urgent. So stuff that you can get away with not doing. You can get away with not brushing your teeth for a single day, not exercising. You can get away for a week or a year without doing your most important art, but it would be very important to do. It's just not urgent. That's Q2. Q3 is stuff that is urgent and not important. It's like when people hit up your phone with like some menial task, you receive an email that like, the email's like, you have to open this right now, but you don't really. So it's distraction stuff. And then finally, quadrant 4, which is stuff that is neither urgent nor important. And that's like the Netflix and the YouTube and Reddit and whatever else. And no judgment against that, no judgment against any of this, right? But we want to put all of this stuff in your list of open loops into its proper place. Just check the time here. Good. So we want to put everything into its proper place. So now, so you're looking at all this stuff. Notice if you have a big list of open loops, look for things that you can abandon. Look for loops that you're just like, man, I don't actually really intend to do this, and get rid of them. And then stuff that's in quadrant 1, like, get to it as quickly as you can, do it. But what you now want to do is you want to set up a block of time every single day for quadrant 2 activity. The stuff that is important, your most important work, but is not urgent. You want to do some discernible progress on quadrant 2 activity for a minimum of 30 minutes every day or every weekday. So that, because when you're doing stuff in quadrant 2, what it does, first of all, is it makes you choose, because you only have 30 minutes. You can take it up to an hour or whatever, but you can only work on one thing per day. So if you have like 10 things that you consider to be the most important thing that you can do. I want to start this business, that business. I want to make my rock opera. Well, you have to choose one. These things have to go into a sequence. See, the people of the left brain persuasion know this. It's intuitive to them, but it's not intuitive to us, because when we have visions, we see everything all at once. And it's so hard to choose what comes first, because everything fits together like a beautiful puzzle. Like you look at a completed jigsaw puzzle, and I ask you, what's the first piece? You'd be like, well, what do you mean there's no first piece? It's like the picture's complete. It all fits together. There's no linearity. But your challenge as a visionary and a creative is to engage your left brain and put things in a sequence. So first things first. So of all the projects, choose one, and that's going to be the one that you're working on every day for, let's say, a month, or working every day until the thing is completed. What's so important about this is that you choose one thing. It teaches you about working in a linear way, which is to exist in the physical world. Things have to happen in a sequence. So you have to learn how to operate in a linear way. So you do this, and then you're teaching yourself subconsciously, you're teaching yourself on a deep level that it takes time to do things. It takes effort to do things. And you're also teaching yourself that you can follow through on things. So that when you get to the end of one of these projects, and you have the experience, the lived experience of completing one of these projects, now, when it comes time to revisit your list of open loops and take on your next project, maybe you'll be a little bit more discerning about what you choose. Maybe after everything you've gone through, you'll think to yourself, man, I don't actually need to accomplish all of this. Maybe some of these aren't as important as they seem. The other benefit to following through on a single project, choosing one project and then following through, is that usually completing this project will generate some kind of success that will allow you to more easily succeed on your next project. So suppose you finish your first play, you're a playwright, you finish your first play, and it's done, and you can send it to some publishers. Maybe it's quality, maybe it's not like the best. Maybe there's stuff that needs to be corrected or updated or whatever, but maybe some other reviewers and writers and actors and people have read it, and now they're kind of like looking at you. Now you're on their radar, so that when you write your next play, they're going to be really paying attention because they see your potential. So whenever you complete anything, even if you chose the wrong project, which is impossible, but it could feel like it, and you don't do it to the best quality, just completing something is so much of a success, because it sets a precedent both for yourself as a memory and also for other people to see, so that they can pay attention, so that you can benefit from more resources that may come your way when you do the next thing. So, open loops, list them all out, put them in quadrants, put out all your fires in quadrant 1, and set up daily 30-minute work, 30 to 60-minute work on your quadrant 2 stuff. Choose one project and follow through on that project. And if you feel like you want to delay it and pick something else up, then you better be ready to abandon this. Now, there's one more concept I want to lay down here, which is the hypnotic effect of open loops. I want you to not get bamboozled anymore by this phenomenon that happens to people of the right brain persuasion. If you have a host of open loops and you choose one to focus on, in that moment, there will be a brief moment of exuberation where it's like, yes, I'm going to laser focus on this and I'm going to get it done. That's predictable. What is also predictable is that as you move forward with this project, the further you go, the further you go, the more you'll start to encounter resistance. In particular, the persuasive power of all of the other open loops will increase. It will become more persuasive. They will call you from the sidelines. They will say things like, you should work on project 2 instead of project 1 because it's easier. It's a better idea to do this instead. If you do project 1, you're wasting your time. This is the wrong thing to be doing. You don't really know what you're doing. It will say whatever it needs to say like, go do this thing instead. And your job now is to recognize the distraction mechanism in you, the siren song that tries to pull you off course. And to hold fast to the truth that if you choose just one thing and follow through, it doesn't matter if it's the wrong thing. It doesn't matter if you do it poorly. It doesn't matter if you feel doubt. It doesn't matter if you mess it up. It doesn't matter that if it gets completed in the wrong way, or it doesn't matter if it's imperfect or if there are flaws. It doesn't matter if you might get judged for it or if you might get embarrassed by any mistakes that are in your work. The highest priority for you is remaining steadfast on a single path. It's helpful to give yourself short periods of time to get to the other side so that you can start training yourself on the feeling of follow through and completion. So maybe if you're really in chaos and there's open loops all over the place, maybe don't commit to a 12-month path right now. Like, I'm going to spend the next year writing this one book. Instead, commit to doing something every day, focused work blocks for a week. Give yourself a small project to do for a single week every day. Do it. Feel the feeling of the follow through. Get a sense of your distraction mechanism, the part of you that's trying to put you off course and talk you out of it. Notice how persuasive it is. Notice how it feels to stay on the path despite the persuasion that comes at you. And get to the other side of that week. Tag the end, get to the other side, look back and review how it went. And then give yourself another week of work to do ahead. This is you practicing self-leadership. You're practicing giving yourself to do and following through, proving to yourself that you can indeed follow through. Huge boost to the self-esteem, huge boost to everything. So that's what I came here to say. So stop being hypnotized by the very predictable emergence of distraction that as soon as you commit down a path, there will be a temptation to be pulled off in the form of whatever it has to say. Also emotionally feeling energetically lazy and lethargic. And this is, by the way, the true meaning of discipline. People think of discipline as forcing yourself to do something. It's not that. Don't force yourself to do anything. As a basic rule, if you're tired and exhausted, stop. It's not about acting and executing when your body is asking you to stop working. Discipline is not getting bamboozled. It's mental. It's a mental game. It's about saying you'll do something and following through despite everything that would otherwise prevent you from following through. That's discipline. And noticing that the part of you that would distract you, it can't actually stop you. It doesn't stop you from doing anything. It just tells you to stop. But you have the option to disregard the order. And every time you do that, every single time, you reclaim your power. You reclaim your willpower and your wherewithal to do shit and follow through. So that is how to cultivate the quality of follow through. If you're a right brain person, you want to become left brain. Cultivate the left brain. In fact, like when I was making these YouTube videos, what you'll notice if you see my really, really early ones, my problem was that I would have these concepts that I want to give to you, but I couldn't find the entry point. I couldn't figure out how to put first thing first. All I wanted to do was just like give you the whole puzzle all at once. But I couldn't do it because when you speak in language, you have to put one word in front of the next. So there's a certain acceptance of the linearity, of the linear style of creation that is required in order to create things. It's a willingness to do things in sequence and a willingness to do things in a rote, routine fashion, a willingness to have routine. It was only when I started, creating plans for these videos, putting things in order that I could properly transmit what I want to see. And now you have the picture. Now you have a sense of the whole thing that I mean to communicate about follow through. So that's it. That's how to follow through. Join my email list. You should join my email list because not only do you get a PDF on how to get yourself to do the thing, and not only do you have access to my free video course on sustainable high-level productivity, which will immediately put you into high-level productivity. It's valuable stuff. You will also be on my email list where I'm giving free group calls on different topic matter all the time. So you can join and you can ask your questions. It's Q&A. The replay is available later. And just be in touch, be a part of this community. Let me help you step into sustainable high-level productivity. It's my gift to give. I want you to have it. I want to help everybody within shouting distance to get their shit together so we can all become powerful and just be great and offer our gifts to the world. So that's my spiel. Okay, thank you.